Well, round number 10 is on the way as we work our way towards our top 8 on day 2 of competition. Let's take a peek on who will be watching first in this next round. We've got Jonny Guttman and Michael DeBenedetto-Plummer, 2 of our 4 people who are tied at 8-1 here on day 2 of competition. Jonny Guttman, let's talk about him first. An online player who started playing in 2015. He made the transition to paper, top 8'd at the Neon Dynasty Championships in 2022, and it was kind of a little bit tough for him to play in paper over online, get some of that stuff right, but he is doing well this weekend and certainly making a name for himself on the paper scene. Let's take a look at the opponent. Michael DeBenedetto-Plummer won 13 matches in a row at Regional Championship in Minneapolis on his way to the final to qualify him here for this weekend, playing with Team Serious players only. So he is serious about winning, and we'll see if he can do that this round. Talk to me about their decks they drafted, Corey.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at Jonny Guttman's deck to start. It is your kind of classic Orzhov medium strategy, but we have a lot of rares that make this a bit more than medium. We have Sunstar Chaplain as well as Sir Von Dam. Those end up being excellent in this deck, as well as great removal. We have 2 Embrace Oblivion, Depressurize, and a Grave Kill. So very solid. Already picked up a win too, and Jonny Guttman, my favorite thing, his first Pro Tour, he went 0-5, 0-10 in games and came up to me and he's like, sometimes you're just built different. And he's built different for this one, as he is absolutely crushing it. Bonnie loved that one. Let's take a look at Michael DeBenedetto-Plummer's, and this deck is absolutely spicy here. We have Anti-Casual Vestige as our really bomb rare, as well as Diadrin to be able to just, ramp out, create some gigantic stuff. Playing essentially 20 lands here, so that's really saying, hey, my 7 drops are gigantic. They are extremely powerful. If I can make land drops, I can take this draft down and start it off with a win against Shuhei Nakamura. DeBenedetto-Plummer has got to be feeling great about his chances here.
All right, it's time for round number 10. I'm going to pass it on over to the booth with Riley and Carmen with the call.
Thanks very much, Maria, and welcome to the booth over here. Riley Knight joining you for the first time today, and once again, Carmen Comparan, senior game designer from Wizards R&D, here to provide some expert insight and analysis as we get stuck.
I'm going to do my best.
Hey, mate, come on. I'm putting you up there. I'm setting you up, and it's time for you to give us the goods. We're going to get stuck into our feature match for this next round here, featuring our 8-1 players. As we've already discussed, Carmen, no one sits undefeated just yet. Nope. Shuhei Nakamura taking a loss. And Jonny Guttman facing off against Michael DeBenedetto-Plummer here. Both of these players again on 8-1. And an opportunity for us to talk a little bit about Team Handshake here. Jonny Guttman on Team Handshake. You got the chance to catch up with Simon Nielsen. Was that earlier today or yesterday?
So this is actually during the sort of pre-meeting that we have with all of our players. Make sure everyone's here over on Thursday. Right. They had, they were kind enough to kind of give me some insight into their testing process. Just said, hey, please don't tell this earlier in the broadcast. We don't want people to know. But because this event is happening so late in the sort of life cycle of this event, it actually changed how they had to play test.
That's right, yes. So sorry, I just wanted to point out that Edge of Eternities, it's a 2-month-old format, right, which for those of you who may be joining this Pro Tour broadcast the first time, that's a very long time.
Yes.
Typically limited formats don't get played at the professional level for as long as 2 months. Usually we're seeing these formats displayed at the Pro Tour after 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So Team Handshake, with 2 months of data under their belt, what were some of their impressions heading in?
So frequently, in a normal event year, 2-3 weeks after the set drops, they have most of their team committed to finding out how the constructed format works, and they're sort of limited experts going to work and then briefing everybody else on their early findings. For this, because everyone had the chance to get a few different drafts in over the course of several weeks, everyone came in with more fleshed out kind of ideas of what they thought was good in the format. So instead of having those early things shaping what they thought was going to be good, they had a ton of games to influence it. So they actually had a pre-meeting where they said, okay, let's try and figure out the obvious things that we think are good. And if we disagree about something, what we're going to do is write that down and then talk about it as a team and then hash out what they thought was good. And it actually led to them not being that unified, even coming into the event in what they wanted to do. This format has, even within color combinations, different ways that you can build a deck. I think we heard earlier Corey describing this as black-white mediums. I think this is actually the version of black-white that Guttman likes to play.
Black white good ones, not black white mediums.
Right. It's way more about pressure. Dockworker Drone is a card in his deck that was actually the card that Simon mentioned to me as, hey, some of the people on our team love this card and think it's great in white. Some people think that you should play a basic land over this. It's unplayable.
Unusually divisive.
Right, exactly.
Which is unusual because you would think after such a long period of time that would homogenize results, right?
Yes.
That would draw people towards what is the correct conclusion on a format. EOE has proven to be a very, very deep and very nuanced format, which we're very grateful for, given the fact that after 2 months, the format isn't yet "quote unquote" solved.
All-timer. Obviously, I'm coming in from RMD. I'm going to say nice things, but unironically, all-timer format.
Now, how much did you have to do with designing this?
I did a lot of late-stage development, a bunch of balance work.
You're also calling it an all-timer.
Do you think this is going well?
Now,
this is going well.
Correlation doesn't necessarily imply causation.
What about anti-causal vestation?
So hang on. Anti-correlation implies anti-causal. We're drawing a longbow here on this one. Anyway, let's catch people up to speed as to what we've seen here in the opening turns. Jonny Guttman with his black-white mediums deck here has played out a Hull Carver and a Virus Beetle, both of these cards. Very, very useful in many black-based strategies, particularly in Dimir, where you want as many artifacts as possible to power up some of those synergies. On the other side of things, we've seen a pretty clear commitment to red and green here, with white on the splash for some removal spells, as well as the all-powerful Diadrin here. But opening up with Sammy's Curiosity, and then the nice little sequence of Anti-Causal Vestige into Galactic Wayfarer, one of the best, if not the best, green common here. So a great start here for Michael. But Jonny Guttman, he is continuing to play to the board. Insatiable Skittermore, the next play for him. So the game developing nicely for both players, but I'd have to say Michael with some more impressive plays early on.
Yeah, a lot of Michael's plays are things that are just going to be higher impact cards, pound for pound. But on Guttman's side, we see a lot of cards that can scale into the later game. Something like we see basically this creature's going to be able to grow over time, and we see this Hull Carver, which can trade up or apply pressure. So much of what Guttman's doing here, we can see all of these cards are things that are generally going to be worth a card every time or be able to apply a lot of pressure.
Yeah, cards that either scale well into the late turns. You look at a card like Hull Carver, 1-mana 1/1's generally very bad, typically in limited, but you put Death Touch on it, and all of a sudden you've just got a blocker that trades for a 4-drop, right, in the later stages of the game. As you mentioned, a nice scaling creature in the form of Insatiable Skittermore. But here's another threat for Jonny to overcome from Michael, a Fungal Colossus coming down as a 5/5 on turn 5, just 4 mana that cost, thanks to the 3 different lands here that Michael has, the plains, the forest, and the mountain.
And notably, Guttman missing the 4th land here, which is a really big deal. A lot of the ways that you see these lower to the ground decks function in the face of something like DeBenedetto-Plummer's sort of big spells deck is you try and double spell. You get on the battlefield faster, you're better at actually playing to the table. But unfortunately, Guttman is just playing 1 card a turn right now, and you can see him sort of agonizing over, okay, I have 5 cards, what is the correct one to play right now?
And wanting to take a more aggressive posture as well here, you can see with the creatures getting in. Follow-up play now, post-combat. A Sunstar Chaplain here. This is an absolute banger. This isn't a black-white medium. This is a very good card.
Right. This is one of the stronger rares in the set and something that actually helps you have some game against these big creatures. So Michael is trying to invest a bunch of land drops, a bunch of mana resources into playing 1 very high-impact card a turn. Chaplain is very good at basically invalidating about 1 card a turn.
And it's already put a lot of power and toughness on the battlefield for just 2 mana. 4 power, 3 toughness, of course. This is one of the reasons that Jonny was so incentivized to attack with 2 creatures. He wanted 2 tap creatures for the Chaplain here. But Michael, right back at you, he says. Clips the Canadian down to 9 with an attack with the Galactic Wayfarer and that Fungal Colossus. And now in comes the Eldrazi, the Anti-Causal Vestige coming in from the Warp Zone.
These aren't just made for blocking, right? At this point, we can see there is more power on Michael's side of the table, which means that somehow Michael is actually the one able to apply more pressure at this stage of the game. A lot of the things that Jonny is doing are very efficient, but you actually need to be progressing the game towards an end that favors you. And I think Jonny is severely on the back foot.
Yeah, the mana development for Michael here has been really, really excellent. Also just really efficient use of mana. Barely missing at the end of most turns, all of his lands have been tapped, which is exactly where you want to be in a game of Limited where you're playing to the board like this. So yeah, Jonny here is having to sort of pause a little bit and think about what he wants to do. Because it doesn't seem he's found his fourth land. He's got plenty of cards in his hand that he can play, but which one of them is going to have the most impact in trying to stem the bleeding at this point? Because as you mentioned, Carmen, he's under a lot of pressure from Michael.
And in a lot of ways, finding something like Decode Transmissions is almost just insult to injury, right? That's going to be a 3-mana draw to.
Yeah.
That you would love to be gassing back up with, but it's not that Jonny is missing things to do. He just does not have mana to commit them.
You want to be casting a card like Decode Transmissions to either refill a hand that's empty, or you're playing it on turn 3 when you know your opponent is not putting any pressure on you. You're not under, your life total is not under a lot of pressure. But as it is, we're going to see another creature committed to the board here, Flight Deck Coordinator. And again, 2-tap creatures. So the Coordinator coordinating with the Chaplain in order to maximize value from those end-step triggers.
And you spoke to stemming the bleeding a little bit. This is something that's doing it in a couple of cool ways. So obviously it gains life. That is just me reading the card to you a little bit there. But it being a 3/3 for 3, and then growing to be a 4/4 means that it is able to profitably block Galactic Wayfarer and asks for Michael to actually have something else to be able to commit that card to the red zone. And whenever there are things like Virus Beetle on the table that aren't really going to be attacking much more at this point in the game.
It can just maybe be thrown under the bus at this stage.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Jonny is finding ways to actually at least stay in the game at this point.
Yeah, and I like this position he's taking. The attacks are really sensible. The Death Touch creature, the Menace creature, able to attack with a little more impunity than they would otherwise. And these white creatures are rewarding that aggressive posture with +1/+1 counters and life. And the Virus Beetle's already done its job, Carmen. It has come in, it's got a cut out of Michael's hand, and now it's just going to gain 7 life, essentially, for 2 mana.
I take that deal.
That's a great deal.
That's fine.
That's a great deal. And that's without exploiting any of the artifact-based synergies. Virus Beetle, it's a humble card, but it's an honest card.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a reason we do this sort of shape in a lot of sets, where it just plays really well, right?
So Michael now, the problem for him is he's kind of played out all the stuff that he has, right? 2 lands in hand for him. Not a lot of other options to pursue here. No cards to dump mana into, right? He'd love a Zookeeper Mechan or something like that, a place to sink his mana. But as it is, right now he kind of just doesn't have much else. Not that he's in a bad spot, certainly. I mean, he's got these enormous, great big thumpers that can be sent into the red zone, but he's not developing his board meaningfully.
I do love that he's continuing to attack. I think a lot of players here might play a little scared and say, "Oh, I need to slow the game down." But you know, Jonny's missing land drop, so has a handful of gas.
Yes.
So in a lot of ways, attacking like this forces the issue and basically makes Jonny say, "Just chump block there and shrink his own battlefield along the way," even though Michael isn't actually casting new spells.
And this is sort of a core precept that we talked about a little bit yesterday, Carmen. This idea of not having enough mana versus having too much, right?
Yes.
If you draw too many lands, well, sure, the top of your library might treat you well, and you're drawing business, and you can use that mana. But the thing about not having enough lands is eventually, right, you're going to draw lands, and when you do, you've got a handful of business ready to go. So the lesson here is if you're sitting across from an opponent who is stuck on lands very clearly, can only cast 1 spell a turn, like Jonny's position right now, you want to put maximum pressure on before they get a chance to draw out of that screw.
Right. The way that I always remember that, because I think some people kind of go, "Oh, does Flood beat Screw or the other way around?"
Yeah.
Is the person who is choked on mana is going to get to play a card every turn.
Yeah.
The other person is going to get to play a card every other turn or so, because some of this, we saw Michael draw Sammy's Curiosity, which is a spell, but it's kind of a gain 2 life land.
Yes. So the incentive is definitely here for Michael to put on as much pressure as possible. As we see Gravpack Monoist come in. And again, 2-tap creatures. Look at this really, really consistent triggering of these of these white cards, the Chaplain and the Coordinator.
Mono is one of the most impressive commons in the set.
Go on.
Real, just it slices, it dices, it attackses, it blockses. It gives you something back even if they have a removal spell. It's just very efficient, does a little bit of everything. I think that is the card I have most happily played the most copies of the same common in my deck.
Always in for a windbreak.
I've had 4 of those in the same deck
Yeah.
and thought to myself, I might play the 5th if I found it. Normally, you kind of start to run into redundancy issues where you want multiple kinds of game plans and so on, but that card just is so much pound for pound that you're almost never upset.
No, like it's on rate. It's a fantastic
It even
deal.
blocks the spaceships.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And in some formats, you know, a 2-1 in the air is not impressive, but in this one, you're more than happy to play it. You can cash it out. You can cash it in for a 2-2 on the ground. It just, yeah, you're never unhappy to see this card.
And it's also the type of thing where creating a tapped token is also not even bad.
Oh, yeah.
Look at these white
particularly-
creatures.
Yeah, look at these.
Yeah.
Particularly with the Coordinator, the Chaplain, absolutely, yes. Makes the job a little bit easier and making sure they're getting value. I think Jonny has gotten value off of these creatures every single turn since he's played them.
All right, so really quick, just speaking of the Chaplain, look at all of these counters.
Yeah.
One more land drop, that's a lot of blockers getting just knocked out of the way. All of a sudden, both of our players are at single-digit life totals.
Yeah.
This is very high tension on both sides of the battlefield. It does cost 2 mana to take a counter off of the Chaplain. So, mana problems. Jonny Guttman struggling this game. Name a more iconic duo. But, 4th land off the top, there are a lot of ways where Jonny doesn't even have to play a spell.
Yeah, and that,
feeling pretty good.
And that's
Look,
with a
pass.
handful of action as well. Embrace Oblivion, Depressurize. We've got ways to remove stuff. Insatiable Skittle, more action, Decode Transmission, more cards. Jonny just needs time. On 8 life, he's looking a bit healthier than he was, but I think he's gained, what, 4 total off of this Coordinator so far?
And in a lot of ways, that might as well be infinite. Which I know sounds a little dramatic, but...
Okay. No, this is...
So there's a degree where if a creature isn't lethal, you aren't forced to block it.
Sure.
You do
yes.
actually get to use your life total as a resource there. And so that's a way where I think a lot of times early on you go, oh, life gain feels good. I think cards like Soul Warden feel a lot stronger than they actually are.
We all went through that.
But then you learn, oh, life is kind of a resource you get a lot of at the beginning. It's hard to tell. But when you get to this level and the edges are this narrow, all of a sudden life represents time in the game. And getting more time to cast your spells, draw out of a mana screw, and actually develop to the battlefield is everything.
But for those of you who may be tuning into a high-level Pro Tour broadcast for the first time, welcome. By all means, welcome. It's great to have you along. But come and we can save them a lot of time here by teaching them the lesson that I think is it is an absolute game changer of a lesson for any developing Magic player. It changed my approach to the game. It's a very simple lesson to learn. It doesn't matter if you win on 1 life or on 20.
Oh yeah.
It shows up on the scoreboard just the same.
Oh yeah. You get 3 match points.
And the sooner you win, the sooner you internalize that lesson, the sooner you realize that it doesn't matter if your opponent gets you down to 1 or 2 life. If you win, it still counts the same as winning on 20. So don't chump block on turn 2. It's fine. You can take 2. Just go to 18. It's all right. You're not going to die. It's going to be okay. All right. Speaking of taking 2, Michael taking 2 in the air from the Grab Pack Monoist here.
Something I also want to call out is that decode transmission. We talked about it not being the best. Card draw, not really what Jonny's in the market for at this point. That is actually a form of reach in this deck. It's kind of a burn spell. If you've enabled Void,
can you target
your
the
opponent will lose 2 life.
Yeah, nice.
So this is a spot where a black-white creature
Not
deck
quite
like
Sign
this,
in Blood, but it's still
but normally
it's pretty close. Yeah.
you literally do not have access to a way to just do face damage in these sorts of decks. But in this game, it looks like that might be how things play out for Jonny.
Orbital Plunge now, the card for Michael. I think that one must have been ripped off the top.
Huge
That's a nice
sigh of
one
relief.
too. Yeah, nice one. Yep.
Right, exactly. We've touched on it a minute ago. This Chaplain kind of represents being able to get blockers out of the way, among other things. And look, right there, you can see he says, okay, well, I can't let you attack with Anti-Causal Vestige this turn.
So it gets tapped by the Chaplain on its way out. Orbital Plunge generates a landed token because it did excess damage. So it's back now to Jonny. Draws the turn. And is it a Servondum here? Now, no, sorry, that was already in hand. He's drawn a swamp. He's found the 4th land. Interesting to point out, Jonny has both Servondums, the 2-drop and the 5-drop, and the Sarima to go and fetch up whichever one he chooses.
Love a little toolbox action.
Very nice, yes. Remember that.
Wow. And look, okay, so Jonny actually has lethal right now. We, eyes in the skies, know that Michael has nothing, but instead Jonny's saying, let's double spell and make you have it.
And they come. And that's it.
Yeah.
Michael goes down. Game number 1. Very neatly played by Jonny, and sort of an illustration of that principle that we were talking about before, Carmen, the idea that if you are mana screwed, if you can hold on long enough to find those lands, if you can keep yourself in the game, right? And what I really think that came down to was the excellent attacks that Jonny was making in order to keep the +1/+1 counters flying, keep the life coming from the flight deck coordinator, the death touch creature, the menace creature, really leveraged to get maximum value. And look, I don't think Michael made huge blunders.
Oh, I've watched a lot of Michael play on the American Regional Championship circuit. Has been successful in multiple formats. Very strong player in his own right. I also loved his navigation of that.
Yeah, it's
he
just
made the best of a pretty bad situation.
But it's a situation that didn't even seem that bad until it did, obviously. But no, I think it was really good play, but exceptional play from Jonny there to get across the line. Now, we're opening up in game number 2 with another Sammy's Curiosity. 3 copies in Michael's deck, so unsurprising to see it on turn 1. And an island here out of the sideboard by the look of things.
Not me checking the deck list right now.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at what some of the blue cards that might be brought to bear here from the sideboard. So I can give you the cards that were picked during the draft by Michael here. 1 copy of Lost in Space.
That's not a bad one.
1 copy of Mouth of the Storm, and a Sinister Cryologist. Those are the only blue cards. Let me have a quick look through the multicolor cards as well here. But which one of those are...
I think Mouth of the Storm is one of the ones I would think of. A lot of it really depends on how much Michael is willing to muddy his mana base for this. So Mouth of the Storm is one where if your opponent's playing a go-wide strategy, you're going to be able to basically blank the power of a lot of cards at once and then turn the corner very quickly, which we saw Michael wanted to do that last game.
Galactic Wayfarer going down to the depressurize. Sorry, continue.
No, you're just fine. You're just fine. But it does ask you to put a lot of mana on the table, which can be pretty tough. Whereas Lost in Space, if Michael is saying, I just need a little bit more interaction in the early turns, is going to buy him just that much more time when it feels like Jonny is a very high synergy sort of inevitability aggro deck.
A quick look through the gold cards here in Michael's pool reveals that there is also a Biomechan Engineer.
Oh, okay. I would like to change my answer.
In light of recent developments.
For a moment? I kind of think that's a really big one here.
Yeah.
The fact that is one where if you just get time, this card is going to accrue you so much material.
It will just win you the game. If it goes unanswered, the fact that you can continue to draw cards, you can continue to put bodies on the board, and it helps you get there as well with the lander token that it creates. So this may have been what Michael brought. It's difficult to have a 2-drop on the splash, but again, Biomechan Engineer is good into the late game, so you're happy to draw it on turn 6.
Even if you cast it with 4 mana up, the worst this card is a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
All right, big plays, big attacks from Jonny.
Oh, no, 13? 13, sorry.
Getting in with the Monoist and the Coordinator here. Servondum staying back.
Notably the Lucent.
Yes, this is the 5-drop, yep.
It gives Death Touch to your whole battlefield, which is so huge whenever your opponent's plan is hinged on, okay, I'm going to make blockers that outsize what you are doing.
Which is a lot of what Michael's trying to do. So it's unsurprising to see this Banishing Light take care of the 5-drop Servondum, leaving the Lash Whip Predator here, ready to rumble.
Lash Whip Predator, very unique shape. Gotta be honest with you.
Yeah.
An experiment.
Okay, tell us more about this. Tell us more about this
it's
card.
something where having a way for green ramp decks to catch up to aggro decks that don't feel oppressive can be hard because ramp decks traditionally just want to put a bunch of lands in play, which generally means just cast your best spells no matter the color. So actually finding something that has a bit of identity like this and just saying, okay, great, you need to be able to put 6 lands in play and you want a way to catch up against a creature deck is a uniquely hard puzzle.
Well, I've got the answer for you. It's very lucky that you found me here in this place at this time because I've got the answer for you. This is going to solve all your problems. You're saying it's a difficult problem to give a green deck that's looking to maybe play into the later turns, a way to stabilize against aggro, you know, maybe pad the life total, make sure they've got material on the board.
Of course.
Reaping Thragtusk, baby, let's go.
Oh,
Give me the 5-3 back. Always carry 2 spears. Carmen, please.
I am here for 1 round, and I cannot use it on Thragtusk Apologia, but you know I'm in your camp. You know I am in your camp.
Oh, Thragtusk enjoys around the world. Don't worry, we have a steadfast advocate in the building in Seattle for the greatest creature ever printed. Always carry 2 spears.
I've seen online where they are calling Riley and Carmen the left and right spear.
No, I don't want to kill the Thragtusk. I want to be the Thragtusk. See, that's you and me on the card, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's it.
Are you feeling this? Are
You
you getting this
you
right
can
now?
be the 5-3. I'll hang out in the back. Go, yeah, woo, go Carmen. I'll come in later. Man, what a card that was. Oh boy. Okie dokes. We've got a All Fates Stalker that's off in the warp zone.
And this is one of the unique puzzles that came with the warp mechanic in particular. We talked about this a bit with Mechanizoa, but it's really hard, at least on the game design side. We generally don't want to create spots that can be paralyzing on the back of, hey, there's a face-up removal spell on the table. But this one having that risk element of, all right, I get your big blocker out of the way, but if you kill this mid-combat, I get blown out.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot more palatable.
It takes the sting off it for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. It's really it is really interesting to just hear about some of the parameters that you have in the building about, like, for instance, I would have never thought, some of the pitfalls of having a face-up removal spell, like how does that impact the texture of a game from a gameplay standpoint, from a fun standpoint, all this sort of stuff. It's so interesting to hear what R&D is like looking for.
But there are ways to do it, right?
Yeah.
It's not a yes or no question. It's a how question.
Yeah.
So like that, Mechanizoa, the sort of temporary or conditional things are a lot of fun, and they give you a ton of texture in these games.
It's really interesting to hear the stuff that you're having conversations about in the building. Drix Fatemaker's hanging around here. Jonny Guttman building out his board. Timeline Color joining the Flight Deck Coordinator and the Gravpack Monoist. And Michael under a lot of pressure here on just 2 life. He's going to have to dig himself out of this one with 3 mana. Let's see what he has got.
And this is the power of the Monoist.
The Dauntless Scrapbot coming down, but it's not going to deal with this Monoist in the air, which is, right now, a lethal threat. Does Michael have a way to see this 2-1 off? A couple of cards in hand for him. And Invasive Maneuvers. All right.
In the business, we say that counts.
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, but here's the Sarima. So this can go and fetch the other Servondum. Both of which there's the 2 mana and the 5 mana Servondum here in Johnny's deck. So the Sarima is going to still be live and fetch a card. This is great stuff for the Canadian here. He is firing on all cylinders. Michael's got his work cut out for him from this point.
All right, so here's that Servondum. We'll invasive maneuver in response on the Monoist.
Yep, to prevent the trigger from the Sunstar Exemplar.
And every point it matters so much whenever a station hits the battlefield.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Not to mention that Servondum Sunstar Exemplar, you're very heavily incentivized to keep that card's power under 4.
Yes.
Because when it leaves the battlefield destroying a non-land permanent, that's no joke.
And that Banishing Light that Michael used earlier on the other Servondum, such a juicy target for that.
The younger Servondum freeing the Elder, that'd be sick. All right, Servondum picks up a counter.
Yeah.
3 charge counters on the Sarima, up to 8 now as well. Card requires 7
of them
to be online, so it is now a 5/5. Other tap legendary creatures you control are indestructible.
I will move to end steps, triggering these 2. Yep. I'll gain 2 life up to 24.
Yeah, he's off to a flyer.
This goes to warp, and then I'll trigger this, and I'll gain another life up to 25.
Oh, and another one as well, because of course it counts when the creature goes to the warp zone. This is bad news
a removal spell
for Michael, and he concedes, and I'm not surprised to see it. Game number 1, a close affair, a very hard-fought game between these two, but Jonny Guttman in the end running roughshod over game number 2. Incredible stuff here, and you can see he's pumped to pick up this win. He continues his winning record, 9-1, I believe.
And
for him.
there's so much that comes from that, right? There's even a degree of affirmation where starting off this strong in a tournament is going to feel really good. But we touched on there being actually just not... So many players on his team disagreed about what you're even supposed to do this draft format. And it's not like Team Handshake is weak, right? So much of it is you have to kind of get over a degree of self-doubt to commit and say, no, actually, I know they don't agree with me. I think I am right, and it's speaking for itself, right?
Yeah, you go back to the team meetings with a big ha-ha, I was right.
You're just like, no, look, like this is a way that you actually can hang in this format and be successful on the world stage.
Well, we're going to continue to unravel the mysteries of Edge of Eternity's draft as we come back with more Magic. A quick break to get things set up. We'll be back in the feature match area here at Pro Tour Edge of Eternities after this. Welcome back to Atlanta here for Pro Tour Edge of Eternities coverage continuing from MagicCon Atlanta. On the way into this venue, many players here would have walked past the Lost Tavern. This is a dedicated space for people to go and trade their cards, Carmen. People wheeling and dealing, looking to pick up cards maybe for commander decks, for collections.
Very
even,
cool.
Potentially,
I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, dedicated space for people to go and maybe offload some stuff that's been sitting in the trade binder for a while.
Yeah, no, I've always loved the sort of collector's corner that you can find at these events. I'm someone who cares a lot about the versions of the cards I play with. I love the self-expression element that comes with that, so you can actually find me in those more than I would like to admit.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's that's where you're off to after this round. There you go. Okey-dokes. Well, we've got another match to share with you now. We're going to head down and find out who our other player pacing the field is going to be. We don't have any undefeated players yet. Shuhei Nakamura taking a loss in our first round of draft here. He dropped down to 8-1, joining Hyuma Nishi, who is also an 8-1. One of these players, Carmen, will improve to 9-1, along with Jonny Guttman leading the field with just one loss. But who is it going to be? Is it going to be our overnight leader, Shuhei Nakamura, or is it going to be his compatriot, Hyuma Nishi, who has been playing extremely well, of course, picking up just one loss across day one. Let's see how things go. Give us a quick overview of both of these decks. You pointed out that Hyuma's deck is actually very similar to Jonny Guttman's.
Yeah, so we're actually going to see a sort of Orzhov sacrificey deck up on the top there. That's going to be Hyuma's deck. We even see both Servandums in this one as well. But I think Hyuma really prioritized just impact in his deck. So we see a lot of bigger spells. We see Mono as Circuit Feeder and things like that up at the top of the curve. Meanwhile, Shuhei has a green-white deck, and it feels in a lot of ways like this has been the narrative of the tournament. Which is going to win out? Is it going to be about efficiency or impact?
I would say that Hyuma's deck is, as you say, definitely slanted towards a later game. The Mono Circuit Feeder, the Estelle Reclaimer. There's a Voidforge Titan, Weftblade Enhancer, a lot of stuff at the top end. Even the cards with Warp obviously having an impact in the earlier game. But if this game goes long, Hyuma's going to have the tools that he needs to stay in it. Shuhei Nakamura's deck, I don't want to... It is the deck that we expected him to draft coming in today.
Whoa. Okay, so I know I kind of interrupted
No,
you
go
there.
ahead. What do we got?
Starfighter Pilot, great on the play because it kind of gets you this selection element going. But it is extremely pronounced to me that Hyuma Bend, a premium removal spell.
Oh, right.
That communicates to me that Hyuma needs land.
Yes. Yeah, if you're putting a vote out into the bin, that means that you are digging to make sure you hit lands. And his deck needs to, right? He needs to get to that fifth, that sixth land.
Even, yes, yeah. Exactly. And back over on Shuhei's side, look at this Wormwall Sweeper attacking on turn 3 with his own pilot. The other way to make that one become tapped.
It's not a bad way. Not a bad way to start this game here for Shuhei. As I said before, the deck that we sort of expected him to draft. This is not a risky deck. This is not a fancy deck. This is a deck that is just honest to goodness, power and toughness.
I really love Shuhei's list because in a lot of ways I feel like he is maybe the most iconic player in the history of Magic, where you look at one of his limited deck lists and you go, how's he winning with this?
Yeah.
But whatever, we can argue about who the greatest player of all time is in Magic, right? I know everyone has their own pick. There are 3 or 4 big ones that people go to.
It's Alexander.
Shuhei is my pick for the best limited player of all time.
Okay.
This is someone who you will see, Yoke Docs has won a Grand Prix and you just go, excuse me, Pillarfield Docs.
Yeah.
4 mana, 2/4, and you just go, that can't be true.
Yeah, in the hands of Shuhei Nakamura, everything is possible.
Yeah, right, exactly. So there are a bunch of cards that are pretty unconventional in here. I think Dual Sun Technique, which we saw get surveilled away, is an example of that, where this is a card that a lot of people kind of wrote this off as
this
not
was
the
like
best combat.
This was a 13th pick. This is a freebie, like just a pickup he got on the wheel.
I can tell you personally, there is nothing better than getting to play your 13th, 14th, 15th pick cards at the Pro Tour. You feel like you got away with something. You go,
for sure.
Right. Yeah. Everyone around me thinks this isn't playable. Okay.
And here I am.
I'll see you at the table.
Yeah. I'll hit you with that technique. Don't worry about it. All right, Sunstar Lightsmith as well, joining the battlefield. And Hyuma finding the 4th land and able to continue to develop the board here.
Weftblade Enhancer, a great one. So this is something that's actually going to let him continue to apply pressure as well as scaling into the late game.
Wow.
But that's not even, we're not going to make it there, friend. How do you feel about game 2?
Look at that, going straight to game number 2 here. So Hyuma, I think, again, with the very aggressive binning of that premium removal spell in Vote Out, demonstrated that he had a hand that was good to go. This was a hand this was a game-winning hand.
Get off the ground.
It just needed the lands in order to get across the line. And so a really astute observation there. But we move now to game number 2.
And we've seen that dynamic a couple of times now where green decks are sort of the ultimate inevitability. Blue is the other thing kind of vying for that spot where you do not want to go long against the color that is just going to go 5/5, 6/5, 6/6. Good luck. So really prioritizing pressure in a lot of ways that obviously mattered a lot, but we saw that Hyuma chose for that to be the game he played.
All right, we have here Diadron Synthesis Amalgam.
X equals 0. Just getting it on the table.
And the Gene Pollinator there being used
to attack, I think. Oh no, it was a mana filter.
Yes. I think that's
any permanent. Is this all forests on the battlefield?
Yeah. I did think that was a Plains in the middle, but that's just a a forest from a different set. Yeah.
No, it's not fancy, but the fact that it says any permanent means it has this sort of quote-unquote shimmering grotto prophetic prism mana filter mode. So having that extra little layer of, hey, you don't even need to be on the battlefield, and this card will do something for you is why it is so premium.
Brightspear Zealot coming down as well here. So Shuhei developing out his board very nicely, curving out 1, 2, and 3. And we've seen Diadrin a couple of times already. Very powerful card.
So threatening.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And a Banishing Light now on the Brightspear Zealot.
Not on the Diadrin. That is a conscious decision from Hyuma, basically saying, hey, I don't necessarily think you have another counters card in your hand. So that card is glorified Elvish Warrior.
Yeah, I can beat it. I can beat a 2/3, but a 2/4? Oof, mate, no.
I mean, a lot of ways, it may just speak to the Zealot being able to actually pressure for more damage, and Hyuma saying, I need more breathing room.
Well, the Germinating Worm is not going to give a lot of breathing room, coming down as a 5/5 on turn 4. Nice position. And look at this. Once again, Shuhei has spent his mana so efficiently every turn.
Every permanent has mattered every turn, starting on the first turn.
Yeah, yeah. And this is how you win games are limited. This is just absolute maximum efficiency here for Shuhei Nakamura. He's in a great spot to lock up game number 2. This is on turn 4. Turn 5, and there's more business. The party don't stop.
Oh, Exosuit Savior picking up the Diadrin means that this Diadrin is going to come back down as something a lot bigger than a 2/3.
A lot bigger, yeah.
Also, notably a flyer. We've talked about the importance of windbreaks in this format. Just being able to break through the amount of material that clogs sort of the ground is crucial whenever you're trying to apply pressure.
All right, here's Servondum, the Lucent. 3 Servondums in total in Hyuma's deck. 2 Sunstar exemplars, 1 the Lucent. Both these cards great. Every year it gets harder to find slots in my night-themed commander deck.
You have to make a day one.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry. It was right there.
As soon as the day creature type comes into play, I guess there's probably something they would like, right?
Oh, look at that.
All right, well, we're going to wrap this one up here.
What is that? Is that 13th pick dual send technique for lethal? Is that, am I seeing that correctly, Riley? Is that?
Shuhei Nakamura just got away with it.
And no, he didn't get away with it. He calculated that.
Yeah.
That is Shuhei.
Yeah.
That is why he is here. That is why he is 8-0 overnight. Again, my pick, best limited player all time.
Huge result here for Shuhei, who picks up game number 2 very convincingly. And we move on now to the deciding game of this match here at Pro Tour Edge of Eternity is coming your way from Atlanta in the United States. My great pleasure to have you here for coverage. Friday night joined by Carmen Klomparens from Wizards R&D. And we're watching these two Titans go at it 8-1, who will continue to 9-1, pacing the field along with Canadian Jonny Guttman, who we saw win just now. All right, opening things up, we've got Dockworker Drone on one side of the battlefield and Starport Security on the other. Followed up by a Blooming Stinger, 2/2 Death Touch.
Usually going to be worth at least a point the turn you play it. If you can even justify attacking, being able to say, this 1/1. Generally, if your card isn't going to block, you want to attack with it.
Cheap cards with Death Touch just have such a high floor, I think.
So much utility.
Like, you know, you play a 1/1 Death Touch, you play a 2/2 Death Touch. These are cards that are never really bad. Well, they can be in some matchups if your opponent's got a lot of flyers, I understand, sure. But generally speaking, they're always going to trade, if not profitably, at least on rate. And for that, there's not much more you can ask for, really.
And Meltstone's Resolve pumping toughness on a Death Touch creature just actually creates a rock-solid brick wall.
And it fights as well when it comes in. Fighting on a Death Touch creature? Disgusting.
Right. All of a sudden, this card ends up feeling like you're just not allowed to interact in combat.
Yeah.
What are you trading for? A 2/4 with Death Touch?
I imagine that's something...
That's really hard.
That's something probably you're very cautious about, I would guess, giving Death Touch creatures high toughness.
Correct.
Just because of how unfairly they clog up the battlefield.
Yes, exactly.
I would imagine that the Death Touch creature, you want it. You're happy when as a designer, you're happy when it trades profitably.
Yes.
But you don't want to be able to just stonewall an entire battlefield.
Right, and a lot of times it looks like now all of a sudden this might just play out as unblockable. but it's up to Shuhei to say, okay, am I the attacker or am I the defender?
Yeah, Meltstrider's resolve is brutal.
Hyuma missed a land drop.
Uh-oh.
Shuhei might be interested in getting into the red zone.
Yeah. Again, you just want to put the pressure on, and there's plenty of it to be had here.
You know what's better than a 2-4 with Death Touch?
Go on.
It's a 3-5 with Death Touch. That's basic. I'm going to say arithmetic. I have a coworker who will be very upset with me if I call it math. But basic arithmetic gets another counter.
Yeah, and Trample Death Touch is such a brutal combination as well. Makes it even... Not as if this card wasn't hard enough to block as it is. The Drix Fate Maker makes it even less of an attractive proposition to put anything in front of this Blooming Stinger. Shuhei Nakamura firmly in the driver's seat. His hands are 10 and 2.
Hyuma needs to find that vote out, that Banishing Light, something to get this Blooming Stinger off the table.
All right, I think that was an attack there. Or was it just indicating the Dockworker drone?
I mean, 80.
Just a little bit of thinking.
Okay, just thinking. All right.
I mean, the fact that that card is able to move some of its power and
no,
toughness
sorry.
whenever it dies is
I was
just so
okay,
interesting.
sorry, he was considering whether he was going to block. What am I talking about? Sorry. He just keeps adjusting. He just keeps fiddling with that Dockworker drone. It's... No, I knew it. I knew it.
There it is. There it is.
I knew it was coming.
Business time.
Yeah. I saw it coming a mile away. Don't you worry about it. Still got it. Still got it after all these years. All right, in it comes. Dockworker drone. Followed up now by this Sunstar Lightsmith that we saw in a previous game here, Carmen.
It's not a bad one, but it's not going to stand up to this Stinger anytime soon.
No. Yeah, this Stinger is a... it's a conjoined, it's a monstrosity here that's been cobbled together. Oh dear. Okay, and it's not. We're not going to get any value out of that Sunstar Lightsmith now, as the All Fates Stalker removes it from the battlefield.
Hard cast mode too.
And how aggressive does Shuhei want to be here? Yeah, he's going to send. He's going to send with 2 creatures here.
And this is kind of what I spoke to a moment ago, where it's you either want your creatures to be attacking or you want them to be blocking. And you could see Shuhei say, okay, this is probably going to get to trade for one of those one way or another. But if I already know how I'm going to spend my next turn's worth of mana, it's a little bit more valuable to actually get the Surveil a turn later. Or if you draw a card, that could change things. So this is Shuhei actually opting for a more sort of informed decision.
So the Dockworker drone picks up the +1/+1 counter from this modular-like ability that it has. And Shuhei still with at least 1 card in hand here, so he's not quite finished. Nishi, is that a Perigi Beckoner there, I believe?
Sure is. Not something, basically getting nothing from this interest trigger.
No, true, yeah.
That's pronounced.
Yeah, that's a feel bad for sure. 4/5's a nice body, but does it even... It doesn't really even help all that much. That Stinger is just massive. That Stinger is what, a 4/6?
4/6 Death Touch can only be blocked by 1 creature.
Oh my goodness.
That text on the resolve is the type of thing that I think people write off a lot, but it really goes to show every single piece of every card matters.
Yeah. Yeah, this Meltstrider's resolve has just sort of put the game, it almost feels like beyond Nishi's reach. The fact that it has buffed up this Blooming Stinger to just make it completely dominate the battlefield. The fact that it allowed Shuhei to just essentially control the board uncontested here. Dockworker drone tapping down.
Oh, I love
Beckoner. And in they come. Look at this.
Oh, wow. This is such a good attack. That's just a 3/3 drone. And so all of a sudden, normally it would be risky to attack with something like All Fate Stalker, but the counter from Rayblade Trooper actually means it's a 3/4. So this attack is clear for takeoff, and it's 7. Hyuma is running out of life quick.
Yeah. And
especially when you have that sort of trample Death Touch interaction just waiting in the wings.
So, removal. An absolute must at this point. Vote out. Grav kill. I guess embrace Oblivion if you have to here.
Oof. It's all kind of ugly because at this point, say you block the biggest thing, which I suspect Hyuma, you can see him adjusting the die. He knows that he is running out of life quickly. If you draw the removal spell, hit the Blooming Stinger, that's the biggest threat on the board. There's still 6 power coming back.
And the tapper as well. This is another problem here. This the dockworker, excuse me, not the dockworker drone, the starport security, tapping down your best blocker every turn. This is a nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
All right. I'm really interested to see what Hyuma does here. This is a really tough spot, and this is the type of thing where there are so many combinatorics of cards that you can draw, the way you can sequence things, and so on, that really influence this.
I don't know what he does here. Okay, he blocks, and throws something in front of the Blooming Stinger. RIP Dockworker drone. Counter's picked up by this Perigee Beckoner, but it can just be tapped down. All right, Servondum, the 2-drop. Okay. And now some +1/+1 counters being distributed thanks to the Weft Blade Enhancer being walked in.
I think we are about to see Shuhei take this one.
Because with Trample Death Touch just pushes through so much damage.
Huge.
You can tap down one of the blockers. And, and there's a Banishing Light as well. And there's a Banishing Light. So you're just not blocking at all. Sorry, Hyuma Nishi. He goes down 2-1 to close out this match. And Shuhei Nakamura continues a blistering performance here in Atlanta at Pro Tour Edge of Eternities. 9-1. He was atop the field heading into day number 2 coming, and he's right back up at the top of the standings where he rightfully belongs.
Right, he's just playing so well. He's playing a bunch of cards that I think a lot of people were doubtful of. We saw Dual Sun Technique literally win Game 2, despite him getting it 13th. Right, that means that in some packs, you're just getting a basic over that. So basically, last pick, winning games, advancing to 9-1, basically top of the standings on the back of some really unconventional stuff. I would expect nothing less.
And we've seen some incredibly well-built decks.
Yes.
We've seen excellent... I mean, this is the Pro Tour. Of course, we're going to see this sort of stuff. But showcasing what this limited format has to offer after 2 months, it's been incredible. We've really gotten so lucky with a format that just has depth, it has nuance, it has replayability, and we're still learning stuff. 2 months in.
It's just been incredible. This is limited at its best because I think even the first half of this, we saw Jonny Guttman on one of the strongest teams doing some stuff that their team could not even agree on, also crushing it. Right? This is so much about how do you want to play, prove that you are the best, and let the cards speak for themselves.
So I would say take this back to R&D and just make every single limited format like this from here on out.
I'll get a pen.
Just do that. Just do that. And then limited's going to be incredible forever. No worries.
I appreciate the tip. Y'all know, y'all heard it here first.
That's it. So I save limited, everyone. All right. We've got more Magic to show you, of course. We've got one more round of limited, and then we'll be heading into modern. We're going to figure out exactly where we're heading to next. We're going to head over to the news desk so they can set up our third and final round of Edge of Eternities Limited, and then coming up later this afternoon, of course, modern for your viewing pleasure. Stay with us, my friends. We'll be back at the news desk after this.